the keyboard to the boardroom. This is
the fastest growing entertainment phenomenon of this generation.
I, Prophet of Esports, joined today by my friend and co-host William Collis.
Yeah, we got the book of esports out. It's a big deal.
So everyone knows me as the Prophet and William as the Professor. As the Prophet of Esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner YouGov offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports after show live stream. I am Paul Dawalibi. I'm joined today by my friends and co-hosts, Jeff the Juice Cohen, Lindsay the Boss Poss, Jimmy, I don't know, Thick Boy has gone away, Barada, and Jimmy Mondel. We still have to figure out a nickname for you. For those of you guys who are new to the live stream, welcome. What we do here is we cover all the stuff that didn't fit into the podcast. It's all the esports topics and news of the week, but it's the stuff we couldn't get to in the hour we have for the podcast. And the best part is with the live stream, we get to do it live with you guys. You get to challenge us, ask us questions, get in our faces, however you want to participate, however you feel comfortable participating. We encourage you to do so, but we're also super happy if you just lurk and enjoy. So feel free to do that as well. How is everyone doing this week?
Great.
The juice.
Excited to be here.
The juice ready to do some juicing.
Yeah.
Nice shade, Jeff. Looks good.
Jeff, you know, I got some specific feedback last week, and the person told me, hey, that Jeff guy, he's really into the live stream. Like,
oh, I love it. This is awesome.
He's like, the feedback I got was, I really love his, like, you got juiced the whole bit.
I suspect that you're lying right now or trolling me, but I'm taking it as
I swear to God.
face value.
Swear to God.
You're lying, Paul, or Jeff submitted his own anonymous review and said, "Oh, I love that Jeff
also
guy.
Possible,
You got
yeah.
juiced."
The greatest thing I've ever heard in media.
There are fans of You Got Juiced.
I'm getting a t-shirt soon. Just wait. A couple more months.
Tyler says, woo. Tyler, prepare for some juicing. And Owen says, hi, everyone. Hey, Owen. Great to have you guys here. Welcome to everybody. Guys, before we kick this off, just let me very quickly tease tomorrow's podcast episode. We had, I would very easily say, the most entertaining guest of all time. Definitely the most handsome guest of all time. He specifically asked me to refer to him in that way. So just to be clear,
I was there and I don't remember it that way, but
was Jimmy's bulldog featured? What's going on here?
No, that is a juice comment. It was none other than the person you can expect tomorrow on the podcast is Clinton Sparks, who's the owner and chief business development officer at XSET. He's also Grammy winning. He hosted like E! News with Ryan Seacrest. He sold 75 million copies, like albums. Like the man is a living legend. And so a lot of fun stuff on the podcast tomorrow with him. Very opinionated guy. Did not pull any punches. And so you can expect fireworks on the podcast tomorrow. It was a lot of fun. In terms of topics that we covered, just to tease that, and you guys can chime in on these as always if you want. We talked about this one where the VP of brand at EA said the gamer label is outdated. And basically, part of her argument is that fewer users are identifying as gamers. So that's one of the stories we covered. And the other story we covered was XQC being banned from Twitch for watching Olympic highlights. I will say we had this in a broader DMCA conversation because of his history in the music business. This was not related to music, but it was a very interesting sort of DMCA/Twitch conversation in that around XQC. I don't know if anyone has comments on these things, but I'm happy to jump into some news that we didn't cover on the podcast. Can we talk about maybe the most exciting thing from the last week? Quite possibly. And this headline doesn't capture it really, but Amazon's New World. I love this particular headline. Amazon's New World game spreads hype, melts video cards in unexpectedly popular closed beta. So latest game from Amazon, their first one, Crucible, never really saw the light of day. So I don't know if I can say this is the latest game, but New World hit over, I think, 200,000 or 300,000 concurrents on Steam. Wow. Seems to be a runaway hit. It's only in closed beta. It launches at the end of the month. I guess my question for you guys is, and we're not going to get into it on this podcast. We're not going to get into the Activision Blizzard troubles in that story. There's just not much to cover there from a business standpoint. But is Activision Blizzard, is their WoW business, do you guys think, in trouble? Does anyone think this is a real threat at this point?
I 100% think it's a real threat. I think so because the IP is so old at this point, and they haven't had, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, because you're the one who plays WoW here. I don't think that they've put something back into WoW in a huge way in a long time. Like there hasn't been like a huge game-breaking, game-changing event that everyone's been super hyped for in a really long time. And so I think New World comes at a really opportune time. There's a huge resurgence of interest in MMOs overall. Like you're seeing Final Fantasy 14 dominate Twitch over the last couple of months at this point. And I think New World is coming.
Oh man, this is such a dramatic
that was a
pause.
good,
yeah.
pregnant
I
pause
like to wait
here.
for a second and thought it was a real dramatic pause.
Well, I mean, I think I could take on from Jen.
Give me the analyst standpoint, Jeff. Right? You were covering Activision Blizzard, okay? Right? Mm-hmm. You see New World come out. You see it have success on Steam. It's in beta, right? Are you asking these questions? Are you asking about WoW? Are you worried?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a concern. I'd say WoW has become a lot less significant part of Activision's business than it was maybe 5-6 years ago, or maybe even a little more than that. But yeah, you're always concerned when there's a competitive threat. I think it's really early right now to say that that Amazon is really a competitive threat yet. I mean, you even, I think, texted me this weekend saying how you were impressed with the game, and that to me, I hadn't played it, so I was like, wow, we might have to change our kind of preconceived notions of what we've thought big tech can do in gaming. Every time one of these big tech gets into gaming stories has come up, whether it's Google, Amazon, Netflix, all of these guys, we've pretty much, or at least I have, largely written them off. They don't have the gaming DNA, they can't pull this off. We even have pointed to Amazon as a prior failure in gaming. So the fact that they are potentially pulling this off makes us have to at least look at this through a little bit of a different prism. Now, I'll caveat that by saying, just having some interest in a beta and having a surprisingly decent game is not going to all of a sudden make WoW crumble in their boots. They still have to have the ongoing content, build it as a live service, and they definitely haven't proven yet that they're able to do that.
They're not going to add a subscription, I thought, right, for New World, right? It's
no,
$45,
yeah.
no subs, so that also is going to hurt. It's funny because I don't know, I feel like so much of WoW and Activision, so much of Activision's business seems to be completely hyper-focused on just their own pre-existing IP and community without regard to what their competitors are doing and how to innovate on top of that or emulate that or take that to the next level. So they're probably like, new what? And honestly, I think the article would be so much cooler if it wasn't actually melting graphics cards, because that's like, right, like when you say like something melt, like new music, it melts my face or whatever, like it's a cool expression, but like this is actually destroying.
Right.
Can I hold on? I do have a tinfoil hat theory on this melting of graphics cards. First of all, it's only EVGA cards. It's only like the 3090s and the 3080 Ti's, right? So it's like a pretty limited set of graphics cards. I know this is not true, but like, how genius marketing is it? You melt a few graphics cards, you get tons of people talking about your game, right? Because this is all Reddit can talk
Melt
about.
a few, no big deal.
Brilliant.
It is kind of genius marketing.
You got the high-end gaming community interested by blowing up their computers.
Paul, if you ever ran marketing, it would be the whole "any attention is good attention" thing, and it would go horribly.
It would be we'd be the most creative marketing agency around. Come on. If we just burn a few graphics cards, we can get people talking about this game. I mean, William, I know you have some thoughts on this. Is this the death of WoW, right? Blizzard had 15 years to prepare for this moment. We're going to see WoW 2 any moment now, right?
I have a small, I have some knowledge here, given that I wrote, one of the Harvard Business School cases on WoW, One Game to Rule Them All. It's a great case. I should say I co-wrote it. I co-authored with a number of people, but I am a huge appreciator of the WoW business model, because WoW is basically network effects. It's like one of the purest network effects driven businesses you can find. Probably the business it shares the most common with, I think, is actually dating websites, which is a really strange parallel to make. But actually, like, there's just so many, because that's another business just like 100% network effects driven. The challenge with network effects driven businesses is part of, like, basically a large part of their value is derived from the network effects, right? Like, and if you think about WoW anecdotally, like, all your greatest moments in the game are probably in some way, shape, or form directly tied to the other people you had interactions with. And that's the network effects fundamentally propelling the game forward. So, WoW is there's a couple risky signs, right, for WoW before anything happened in New World. One was there's been all these things, I think, about the user base going down, right? They've been losing paid subscribers. I think there's been articles come up to that effect. So one is, that's never good. If you're in a network effects driven business, like your network effects get weaker as you lose. So that's not good, right? But still an enormous number of subscribers, right? But then they launched WoW Classic, which I think looked like an amazing idea at face value when it first came out. Like, WoW Classic, WoW Classic, right? But in reality, I have concerns if that's not a network effects drag on the business, because now you've split the player base. You've taken people who were in mainline game and you've moved them back to a different world where there's zero interaction, zero connected. Like, you can't take your character from one to the other, right? So you've essentially taken one MMO and divided it into two, and that's weakened your network effects base. And worse, you've taken probably your more hardcore users, because the people who want to play Classic probably are large part people who are there in the beginning who have fond memories of the launch, right? Like, so you've done something more than just worse than split the base half. You've actually split it on engagement lines, which is always a very risky thing to do. So, there's been a general downtrend. Plus, they made some business decisions that I think raised some concerns. Now you have what could be a very strong competitor in the market in New World, because it's coming out by a company with the resources to plow into this. And a huge thing you'll see about network effects driven businesses is marketing, and how marketing can propel them more than other businesses. Network effects businesses benefit enormously from marketing, and Amazon has the money to dump marketing into this, right? So just like you remember for World of Warcraft, they were running ads with Ozzy Osbourne. I think we all remember, and doing crazy stuff because they were network effect. They could get the lift that could work. And it was a huge advantage for Blizzard back in the day. There were very few gaming companies that could put that type of wealth behind the launch of a game. Amazon could do that now. So if this does catch, they have the resources to really go toe to toe here. This isn't like it's some unknown MMO by a random publisher, right? So there's a lot of risks here I see for WoW. At the same time, I think Jeff is really smart when Jeff says, whoa, there's a beta and it's fun. There's a lot more that has to happen to disrupt a juggernaut of a business, a society, a lifestyle that WoW is, than just a super cool beta. And by the way, we saw this consistently in WoW's heyday. It was MMO tourism. Think of all the big MMOs that launched into WoW that had amazing betas or opening weekends. Like think of Warhammer Online, right? Think of Secret World was big. Think of even the Lord of the Rings game, right? Like major AAA properties, amazing. They all came out. They were huge. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, WoW's dead. It doesn't have, PvP guild wars. Oh my gosh, WoW's dead. It doesn't have this great, questing system. Oh my God. And none of them really were WoW, right? None of them, I don't think you can say, even though some of these games, which I mentioned, are still around today, none of them are anywhere near the cultural influence of Juggernaut. So a great beta or launch weekend does not a compelling game make, or does not a WoW killer make. But what's different here and why I'm paying attention is WoW does seem more vulnerable for all the reasons I laid out than everything else, right? Than it's ever been before. So if there was a game that could be a flash in the pan previously, and now there's a company with the resources to grow it, and it's growing into a weaker WoW product, I'm going to pay attention. But I don't think the writing is on the wall for WoW at all. And I would not. I'm in Jeff's camp. If I had to vote today, I would say WoW all the way. But if I were at Activision Blizzard, I would be very nervous, and I'd be watching this very closely. And I would hope that they have plans and contingencies in place for when major competitors take another swing at the MMO market, because that was foreseeable. And that appears to be happening now. So it's time to activate your defensive measures, You
guys are completely wrong. You're completely wrong.
I think so too.
I mean, WoW is dead. WoW's dead. This is it. This is its final swan song. This is the death of WoW. And I can guarantee you, I will bet good money, Blizzard has no plan of action, has no contingency plan, has no game in the works, has nothing. Right? This is just classic Activision Blizzard. They were sitting on their high horse, riding this thing till they could squeeze every cent out of it, until there's nothing left. And they couldn't care less about the future of the business. Could not care one bit. I mean, it's so classic Activision Blizzard. And it's such a classic business lesson here, which is they're making money off of something, right? So they're scared to cannibalize it, so they don't innovate, right? If we make a new game, it'll cannibalize the old game. And so they never made a new game because they were so scared of losing the revenue from the old game. They never took that leap of faith. Hey, we can make a great new game. We can innovate. We can continue to dominate this space. There's just total lack of innovation. New World is good enough. Amazon's big enough. We saw Jimmy M and I saw the network effects firsthand in our own Discord server. Two people started playing it. And then all of a sudden we had like 15 people.
We had like 15 people. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is scale. Sorry, Lindsay, go ahead.
Just as a quick point, report again on that in a month or two, though. I'll be curious to see.
No question, New World has to do some things, right? New World has to have good endgame content. They need to fix some of the PvP combat system. Like there's some things that need tweaking, but all the pieces are there, right? Everything's there.
And I think how is it gonna monetize after? I know, Jimmy, you just said it's not a subscription,
right?
Is there microtransactions? Like, how does it make money?
Yes, exactly. There are microtransactions for armor and like cosmetics and things like that. And so I think the biggest thing that we need to take note of is that yes, there have been other MMOs in the past that have come up that have been huge, but relatively huge. This game is actually huge. Like in terms of scale, 300,000 concurrents on Steam is up there with some of the biggest games on Steam ever. In the history of games. And so I don't think the scale was ever matched previously, especially not in MMOs. We're probably talking like 10,000, 15,000 in the past, whereas now 300,000 on a title that is, you can only get into the beta by pre-ordering the game. Right. And so that means you already have the game for launch. There's no subscription service. These people are going to be back.
We know broke people who paid $50 to play this game. Like
really broke
They've
people. Never worked a day in their life, but somehow they found $50 for this game. I'm like, how do you pay for things? Somehow they made it work. But
who are these people you guys hang out with?
Just a bunch of kids from Queens, man. It's weird.
The G-Gen server.
Yeah.
Guys, but just seriously, like, Paul is somebody who literally has many times said WoW is the greatest game ever. Like some of your best gaming memories are in WoW. Like, how does this make you feel? Like just like as a visceral reaction, because you're now, this is not me saying that, you're
leading
now saying
question.
WoW's over. Like,
I knew this day was coming. It's like you know, when my grandmother was starting to get old. It was like, I know the end is near, right? Like no, like it's it's the writing's been on the wall. I can still love WoW. I can still think it's the greatest game ever made, right? But it's old. It's old, and they've done nothing about it. And unfortunately, you just don't survive in business when you don't innovate, when you don't sort of move with the times. I think Tyler says so dark.
Thank you, Tyler.
yeah,
But
that
just
Tyler,
to,
that
so I
was
guess to
really-
rebut that for a second, like, haven't they tried to expand that universe? They did obviously William's favorite game, Heroes of the Storm. They did Hearthstone, which was a really successful expansion of the brand. They're
What does
doing
that have
WoW
to do with
more.
the MMO?
Like,
What does that have to do with the MMO itself?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you're saying like they've never created. If we argue like WoW was the pinnacle of being an MMO, and arguably it's
They
been
had to
wildly
innovate
successful. Like, what
the
would
MMO.
Yeah,
Paul,
yeah.
let me flip the because I'm just curious from a business strategy perspective. Let me flip it on you. Let's say everything you've said is true, right? Just from a hypothetical standpoint. WoW is dead, right? You know, New World is coming in, right? Like, you get a phone call tonight from, you know, Activision Blizzard, right? And they say, we saw the podcast, Paul. You couldn't have been more right. We're
I
flying
get
you
those
out
calls
tomorrow.
from Bobby like every week.
We're flying you out tomorrow. There has to be something we can do. It can't be too late. What can WoW do, given, assuming you're right, that they don't have a new title ready to, they don't have like a WoW 2 under glass that they can just break and be like, surprise, here it is. Assuming they are where they are with what they've developed, and you're seeing what you're seeing in the market, if you were the custodian of that brand, what would you do tomorrow to change it? Like, what can Blizzard do defensively?
So there's nothing they're going to do tomorrow to stop the death of WoW and the rise of New World. There's no, right? They waited too long. There's nothing they can do tomorrow. What they can do, though, is now start smartly planning for a comeback, for the future, for some sort of second act, right? And I think if you put me in charge of Blizzard tomorrow, I say, okay, guys, everyone on Overwatch, everyone on Heroes, like Hearthstone, we take everyone off those games, because if we get WoW 2 right, whatever you want to call it, right, you have a game with 50 million people playing, right, around the world, paying subscription every month. If you get that right, why not go all in on that big vision? It fits the whole metaverse thing. It fits MMOs are the pinnacle of gaming. You have all the pedigree with WoW. I would literally pivot the entire company and focus on WoW 2 and set an aggressive timeline in 3 years. We need to completely change the world of MMOs. People need to be blown away by this. It's going to take years. There's no solution.
You're going to get rid of your
tomorrow.
whole Overwatch franchise? I mean, that's going to hurt.
What's
Not
left
really
of it?
losing much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I feel like what are you going to lose?
I mean,
Yeah, but they're
what are you gonna
currently
lose?
going through the same problem with Overwatch, where they've put a massive investment, obviously, in the esports part of it, and they need something to reinvigorate that brand, because Overwatch, Overwatch 2 is a big part of what people are interested in.
Overwatch 2 is a
investors
huge
are
piece,
interested
is my
in that.
understanding of the messaging strategy. Yeah.
The messaging's wrong.
It's wrong. Like, even as an Overwatch fan, there's no interest in Overwatch 2. We barely have a story. There's no real reason to play the game. It's not graphically different. Like, why would I, as a fan, purchase Overwatch 2? The long-term strategy is kaput in my mind. Even as a fan, like, not even looking at
Guys, I mean,
analytics.
it sounds like, I mean, I just push back here a little, because I feel like, first of all, I have to call this out, but like, new game hype. Like, I'm sorry, like, I'm not saying New World isn't amazing, but I cannot tell you the number of games that I played for 2 or 3 days, and I've said to my wife, like, I think this one's timeless. Like, this is it. This is the one. This is the one when I'm on a desert island. This one comes with me. And then, like, 2 weeks later, I'm like, I don't know if I want it. I'm just saying. Like,
I played the Ashes of Creation Alpha. Okay, in just a week before New World.
Yep.
And I'm not sitting here raving about how I think Ashes of Creation is going to kill WoW. I think I have a long enough history with MMOs that I think I have a good sense of what works and what doesn't.
And
from a
also,
purely objective standpoint.
I bring your attention back once again to scale. 300,000 people. That is a huge number for people to
That-
pre-order.
Yeah, but
$40
WoW.
worth
I
of
mean,
game.
WoW's probably got 10 times that many.
Yeah, but it's going to
subscribers, right?
snowball. It's going to snowball.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
right?
For a access to a beta that you had to pre-order from Amazon. Amazon already doesn't have good pedigree. You're pre-ordering a game that you've never played before.
New
a
IP,
developer you've never
new
heard
IP,
about.
which is
Exactly,
massive,
but
massive.
300,000 people felt it was good enough to take that jump.
To
That-
plug
I'm
50
gonna.
bucks down.
Right.
I can easily push back on that though too, because in the past year we've seen spending habits completely change and interest in gaming just skyrocket. I think this is the new market that we're in a little bit as well.
But that might speak badly to WoW, because the risk here, I think the risk for WoW is there's a generational thing going on, which is there's a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds who never were in WoW 15 years ago, who've never had an MMO, who maybe are newer to gaming because all of these new gamers have been created. And for them, they don't have the network effects. They don't have the friends lists, the guilds tethering them to WoW that are hard to leave. They're fresh, right? And so if they are in a Discord server and their buddy sends them an invite, right? Now, I will say I am stunned. This is not a free-to-play game. I am stunned. I think that is such a bad mistake. I find it difficult. I just, to be honest, I find it difficult to be excited about any game today that aims to be a network effects driven, massive mass market game that is not free to play. I just that the price tag alone for me, and I get what you're saying, Paul, people, they find the $50. I get it, but I think we live in a world where where a fixed price up front for a game that monetizes on the tail end. It's an old business model.
Well, you make the case for why WoW's is in even more trouble, because I can
Exactly.
tell you the one thing the average 16-year-old gamer is completely allergic to is a subscription. There's no 16-year-old gamer that's like, oh yeah, I really want to ask my parent for like
100%.
a credit card to pay $15 a month.
All right. Well, I mean,
The subscription is dead.
No, yeah,
It's
the
dead.
subscription I think is dead.
So then walk this through me. Let me go through a hypothetical here that I have. Activision Blizzard comes out tomorrow and says WoW is free, 100% free.
They
right?
won't, but okay.
But just bear with me, right? Like if this is as dire of a situation as you're describing, Paul, and you're called on the plane to fly out and fix it, right? Like just imagine this world entirely free to play. They say this is the greatest MMO of all time. It should be accessible to everyone. Not only is everything free to play, but where we will do and we'll work out an in-game monetization scheme coming for cosmetics, but the game is 100% free. And all subscription holders right now, great news, no subscriptions. Now's never been a better time to try WoW. Shadowlands or whatever it is, just get in the classic. And not only that, we'll give you, if you come in the next 2 weeks, we'll give you a free 60 bump. Free 60 bump.
It
or whatever
would have
it is. I don't even know what.
A small momentary effect, but the reality is the things you just said, the audience that matters right now, that 14 to 25 kind of audience could not care less about WoW because, and I'll tell you, this is anecdotal, but I have enough data points that I think it's true. And our DGen server is sort of the perfect example. If I ask people to come play WoW, the first response is, that game's so ugly.
Yeah.
Like, why would I play that? That game's so ugly.
It's
Right?
dated. The IP
it
is
looks
tired.
dated.
Like
The combat's dated. There's New World is real-time combat. WoW doesn't have that. WoW could never have that, right? You're talking about an engine that was built 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It's so behind. There's no amount of tricks, marketing, free that will get people interested again.
You want to know the best prediction, and this is going to be critical. It's like I'm not sure I buy your thesis. I'm still in Jeff the Juice Cohen camp. I think I'd be
we'll
watching,
see who's right.
But I want to put a new thesis out there that I would say, which is, and because I think this is the best world that, I think this is the truest your version of world gets, which is New World and WoW live happily side by side. WoW has a drop in user bases because there's an MMO customer base that migrates, but there is a massive hardcore entrenched audience in WoW of 30, 35 plus gamers that cannot leave because their life is in Azeroth. Their friends are in Azeroth. Yes, the system is clunky. Yes, it's old, but they love it. It's what they've grown up with. It has quirks. They'll get hammered out. And what you're going to see is New World is the MMO for 16 to 22-year-olds. I think that's the best world that you can like literally. I think WoW is so
I have a question here. I think you guys have
like
both done a good job summarizing all this, and I think it's a good, healthy discourse. Are you more? Is your point of view, Paul, more because New World is really good and you were so impressed by New World, or is it more like you're just so WoW is so tired and old, and it's just its time has kind of come, and that someone was going to beat it? Like, I'm just curious, like where
both.
you
It's the
do you
perfect
really
storm.
think New World is like?
It's three things. It's New World's really good. WoW is really bad, and we're at peak backlash even from the player base, right? And the third element is Activision Blizzard is just totally clueless. Like, they're the most clueless they've ever been. And so like this there's this perfect storm of they have no clue what they're doing. WoW is really bad. It's in the worst place it's ever been. And New World is it doesn't even have to be an A+, right? The fact that it's a B+ right now is good enough because of just this perfect storm.
And I really think, William, to your point about, those being entrenched in WoW and not being able to make the change, I think a great analogy is looking at Valorant and Counter-Strike, where Valorant comes out, and sure, for like the first year, it's all these Zoomers, all these new talent, but after a year, you're seeing major talent from Counter-Strike, major pedigree team make the change to Valorant, not only because it's a new game, it's a new take on the entire environment, but it's really the depth of exploration, right? You can make a name for yourself. There's things to be accomplished in this world. Whereas in WoW, Method is the clan. They've been the clan for years. You're not going to beat Method. You know what I mean? New World is the new world. There's a whole world of exploration for everybody around the world to get tied into. And that's what I think is also like a big point in this metaverse scenario.
I don't know. I think if New World is a problem, and I truly believe this, it will be less what New World does right and more what WoW does wrong. Because in my deep look at that game, I truly believe the underlying game no longer matters. I literally I fundamentally believe the thing that makes WoW great is the communities that exist on and around WoW. I fundamentally believe it's the people, right?
But William, that proves my point, because what's happening is these people are going to move, and the more people move, it's a slow trickle in the beginning, and then you realize, wait, my friend's on New World,
exactly.
I'm not going to play with. And again, we saw it anecdotally just this weekend, right? People in DGen who were hardcore WoW players were like, oh wait, my 10 other friends are playing New World, let me go check out New World, right? And they haven't quit WoW yet, but it doesn't take very long for that trickle to speed up.
No, MMOs are kind of you can only do one genre, right? Nobody's grinding WoW and Final Fantasy 14 at the same time.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
I guess there are some, but those are really hardcore.
Even for your DGen server, as you call them, that's probably a hard task. They are, by their nature, they're aggressive time sinks, right? They don't benefit. And by their nature, they're parasitic. They want you to put more time and invest more in it. But I don't know, guys. I mean, it's first of all, I'm so excited we have a new MMO to talk about. Let me just be honest, right? I just think this is the greatest thing ever that there's a new MMO out, and somebody else can make the same mistakes I did and completely lose your college experience because you got to get your 60 water quest. And, it's just WoW is amazing. I have some of my best memories in WoW, right? But to have that to have an opportunity for there to be a substantial step forward for the genre, I think is really exciting. And I'm glad that we're talking about it here. I still go back to, I think you will be shocked at how strong the network effects are. And I think you're describing network effects starting up for New World, which is great. I think you'll be stunned to see that it's possible to have complementary network effects driven businesses lead side by side. And I think that's probably the world at best that we live in, where New World is the Gen 2 MMO and WoW is the Gen 1 MMO, and both continue to live side by side. And maybe that means New World is bigger. I don't know. Probably Gen 2 is larger, maybe more, but I saying WoW is dead, I don't think it makes sense. I think WoW might take at best a reduced role in its user base and its importance in the portfolio of games going forward. But there's too much invested in, and there's too much stickiness in how the business model is built for it to break just because another good MMO comes out. However, I do believe that decisions like WoW Classic, which I think are self-inflicted wounds, I think they are self-inflicted wounds on the user base, right? Those are reasons why this could go to zero, right? To be honest with you, because those are active decisions by the custodian of the brand to bifurcate their player base, which you never do. I go back to, where is it? Book of Esports here. Is it Book of Esports? Here it is. Let's hold it up. I think like some of the greatest things Riot did when they were building League of Legends is decisions to consolidate the player base, even when people were upset. When they took out maps like Crystal Scar, everyone was like, what? Where that? Right? But it created a common experience. It pooled users in one path. And I think anytime I see publishers doing the opposite, I get a big red flag raised. So,
yeah, I don't think WoW's going to zero tomorrow. It will be continue to be a slow decline. It is going to zero. The Riot MMO probably will be the day it goes to zero.
Yeah, like okay. So put this in context. So New
Does
World
the Riot
is a big
MMO
hit.
defeat New World?
Yeah, does the Riot MMO defeat New World?
Who knows?
Like, what's
the point is, if you have two legitimate competitors, WoW stands no chance.
Well,
which is why,
or is it that those two competitors sort of fight out this new generation that William's talking about, and you have the old school people that stay with WoW?
I don't buy that.
You just got
thesis.
juiced.
That thesis makes no sense. It's like saying, I bought a new computer, but I'm still going to use my old computer over here. Like, no one's going to play the old game.
Yeah, it's gonna be League and New World.
highly
The analogy I would make to make that analogy accurate is like you bought a new computer, but you can take literally none of the files, contacts, or any information from the old computer. And not only that, like you have built an entire rich life on the other computer.
Let me stop you there, William. That's just not a good analogy, because the same
that
people you
doesn't
play
work.
WoW with, you can go play New World with. You can go play the Riot MMO with. Like, the people are mobile. Like, this is not. And I will go one step further. The death of WoW is fundamentally the death of Blizzard. Blizzard, this was the heart of Blizzard, always has been. I don't think Blizzard ever recovers. Like, forget about all the issues going around with Activision Blizzard right now. I don't think, unless, like I said, they really commit to a major transformation as I described, I don't think Blizzard ever really recovers from this. They're going to get a serious drubbing with this whole WoW thing. They're going to take a serious beating. And it's not going to have a material impact on Activision Blizzard because we know WoW's small. They're going to talk about how many more millions of people are playing COD Mobile. But the heart of the business will have died. And I just don't think you come back from that.
I'll be curious to see where we're at in 6 months, because I think people's resistance to change is significantly higher than you're giving them credit for.
Yeah. Jeff, I want to know, just before we move on, who convinced you here? Are you in Paul's camp, which is, oh my gosh, WoW's over? Or are you in my camp, which is like, there are lots of games that come out to try to defeat WoW. This one had a good opening weekend, but more than
the juice will be the arbiter here. I mean, look, Paul is the WoW guy. So, but he also has an axe to grind with Activision Blizzard. So, I take his opinion pretty strongly because he's the one who's passionate about WoW. So this is kind of his area, but I think I would agree with William is my bet. If I'm betting, I'm betting on William here.
I'm ordering New World right now.
Would you say I'm allowed to have? Would you say I get to drink? What do I do with the juice? Tell me what does it mean
juice,
when you?
Yeah.
Do I get a cup of the juice?
I've given you the juice. Now you drink the juice.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, guys, let's move on. Let's
talk about
high five.
Let's talk about Epic.
Reversed on the cameras. It's reversed on the.
All right, we're good.
Epic Games crafting a highly realistic and drivable Ferrari for Fortnite. I bring this up because if you guys remember, we did a story, was it 2 weeks ago or last week, about Tesla being in PUBG, but you couldn't drive the vehicles. They were just sort of like, they were just.
Yeah, this is already so much cooler.
This is already so much cooler. I guess this may be a simple question to answer. Is Fortnite really at this point the best in terms of brand activation? Like, does anyone do this better? In-game brand activation.
I don't know.
Fortnite is.
No,
sorry, Jimmy. You
no
go.
one does it better.
Like who even tries? I saw Call of Duty do this '80s themed battle pass with Die Hard, right? And
it was really bad.
Rambo.
That
It was really bad. It was so
bad.
bad. Interesting concept, but like, so I just don't know who does it better than Fortnite, honestly. And I remember I thought I was the one that showed you guys this article because we were talking about Tesla, right? And why they didn't go to Fortnite or someone, why did they go to PUBG of all games? And then we said, oh, well, Fortnite's probably locked up with Ferrari, and yeah, I'm going to pass on Tesla for Ferrari. Whether or not the Fortnite gamers are the ones that are buying Ferraris, different question here. But the question being, who does activations, crossover collabs better than Fortnite? The answer is nobody. I think the real question as a business podcast we should be asking is, what's this doing for Epic and Fortnite and keeping them afloat? Because, is this increasing any of their revenue? Is it keeping their users, or are these just incredibly expensive PR pieces and headlines that keep them relevant when they've realistically been dead for a year now, or slowly dying for a year now?
Would you go buy the Ferrari whatever skins, or because it's not just the car, right? They're releasing a whole bunch of cosmetics that are Ferrari themed.
If they did it for Lamborghini.
Yeah.
And everybody who has those everyone who has those cosmetics also owns a Ferrari in real life, right, Paul? You have to prove that you're a Ferrari owner to buy that.
This is how it works.
That's amazing. Wow.
No, it's a good question. The other question I had was the article points this out specifically. They say the model of the Ferrari, it's a 296 GTB. It's hyper realistic supposedly. Okay, so and supposedly it's almost jarring against the cartoon background of Fortnite, but Ferrari, insisted on having a not a cartoon Ferrari, but a realistic looking Ferrari. Is this, is Fortnite becoming more Metaverse-ish?
Yes,
if we start
totally.
seeing more realistic models as opposed to cartoony models?
But this isn't the start of that, right? Fortnite did that with a Borderlands crossover collab 2 years ago. And then they did it with the Rick and Morty collab just a few months ago with the cartoon thing. They just do it so well, right? Back to them being really the best activation partner. Yeah. Sorry, I'm super hyped.
Fortnite can't be a
I've always loved
metaverse.
the brand. I just can't build for shit.
The only metaverse is New World. We only play New World.
No, I also think what if they snag a bunch of licenses for these car manufacturers and just make a racing game inside of Fortnite, dude? That would be great. That would be awesome.
That would be so fun.
Play the racing. Just get Fortnite just to play the racing game,
dude. Oh my god, yeah, I would do it.
Grand Theft Auto do that basically.
They sort of, right? They had all these ripoffs, and they still were able to make racing games out of them, and people still played them and bought the cars. So if you got the real cars, I'm assuming people would love that.
Yeah.
But why not just make then Rocket League a mode inside Fortnite? Or a map or something
they own
that
them.
Would be
right?
amazing. Yeah.
Maybe one day you break out of the Rocket League stadium and you end up on the Fortnite Island and you're like, what the hell is going on? Where am I?
What if you drive the bus in Rocket League?
That's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying. Yeah. But guys, we've wanted games to have more shared IP and integration. I literally, I still think the biggest miss is when I'm playing Dark Souls 1, I can't keep it going in Dark Souls 2. There's not a way to move my character. And I get that there's persistence, but it's just, we always want more interconnectivity amongst our games. I think that's partly why even something as lame as Steam and cross saves and pan game achievements that Microsoft, it means something because it's letting you take some value out of the game and extract it to a higher level, So I think we crave deeper games integration. I would love to see publishers doing more that allows their titles to flex into each other. That would just be the greatest world to me. And part of me hoped when, not the Steam store, what was it? The Epic Game Store was coming. Part of me hoped that was what it was going to be. Literally, part of me hoped that the Epic Game Store was going to be a store in Fortnite, but obviously that's not what we got. I don't know.
Any other thoughts on this, guys, before I move on?
I want to
Robert asked. Sorry, Lindsay, go ahead.
Oh, every single time Fortnite does an activation, I get so excited about it, and I'm not
buy
even
the skins.
Sometimes you have to log in to get them. It's exclusive, but I don't know. It's just for a brand or a game that has been dying and has had relatively poor updates, in my opinion. Nobody wants an exploding pepper and a balloon gun and whatever else all that nonsense is. They have been brilliant. I don't, but they've been absolutely brilliant in their partnerships and in building partnerships with the like young, cool audience that they have on the platform. Sometimes it goes a little too far just for me in terms of appealing to actual children, but in terms of appealing to like the young millennials and the older Gen Z, they nail it every time. It's so fun.
I mean, I said this about the Lamborghini and Rocket League thing, and I'll say it about this. Like, this is the 21st century metaverse, digital, whatever equivalent of me as a kid putting the Ferrari on my wall and dreaming about owning one day, right? Like that. It's the equivalent, and this is the genius of this activation and this marketing. They know the 14-year-old kid can't afford a Ferrari, but when he grows up and he can, this is all this messaging plays in your brain your whole life, right? You dream of the things that you see as a kid.
Yeah, the things that you want and you can't have become the things that you buy when you're, having a midlife crisis. Yeah, like.
All right, let's move on. Robert specifically asked for a story, and I want to make sure we talk about it because I did think it was interesting.
Story New World. I want to go back to New World.
Robert says, did you guys talk about certain states stopping sales of high energy consuming computers? So let me just show you guys the article. This is from PCGamer.com. Dell is canceling Alienware gaming PC shipments to several U.S. states. Specifically, orders placed in California, Hawaii, and 4 other states will not be honored because of power consumption regulations. So certain of their Dell's computers are basically now not allowed to ship to those states because they exceed the power sort of limits that these states have set for PCs.
So is that because these particular Alien PCs are badly designed and they're drawing like more power, or it's just no? Okay, so it's literally just like these
they
PCs
have high power components
they rock,
yeah,
and they rock too much for state regulations, basically.
Yeah, so like they're not even like that crazy. There's one that's like a GeForce 1650 Super, 8 gigs of RAM, and a couple of hard drives and a Core i5, and it doesn't qualify.
Yeah,
like
probably couldn't run HOTS very well though. So
I hate that. That's the recurring thing every time it's HOTS, and just the deadpan way in which you say it.
Love HOTS. I love HOTS. I love it. Okay,
but. In reality, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, right? Why, if you're having problems regulating current and electricity in your state, why do you go to the consumer and like, hey, could you use your computer a little less, you freaking nerd? Like, what? Go to the big companies. Why? This makes no sense. It is dumb. I hate reading about it. It's like when, like, I don't know. It reminds me of like net neutrality.
My high-powered PCs when they pry them from my cold, dead hands, right?
Yo, honestly, like it's a pandemic. People are stuck at home. What else do you want them to do? Like, figure it out somewhere else. Like, why the computers? What?
It was a bit odd. I don't know if you guys, Lindsay, have any, especially from your perspective, you deal with a lot of.
This makes me want to cry. Like thinking about policy like this just makes me like want to scream because there's a million other ways you could drop power consumption than someone's computer that I'm sure is a 1,000th or millionth of a percentage of how much you actually need to drop it by. It's like just build some windmills and call it a day, guys. Like there's a million other options.
Is this just Dell being cautious, or does this affect other PC manufacturers and this is just like Dell's the first one to go here?
I think Dell's just the first one to go here. I'm sure others will be affected because it's a certain power like limit requirement. So how many kilowatt hours electricity per year like that system can use? Mm-hmm. Can I just since Tyler said I was a bit dark here, can I just give you the dystopian are we
sure dystope me?
If you had asked me 20 years ago if gasoline cars were going away, I would have said you're crazy, right? Like no one's gonna want to drive these electric things, right? Like gasoline engine, but it's happened, right? And it's happened sort of slowly over time, and these kinds of things creep in like that. In this case, is there a world where like we won't be able to overclock our PCs? We won't be able to have high-powered gaming GPUs. Like Is there a dystopian future where there are such strict regulations and limits?
Do you really believe when like Facebook isn't? I mean, I know why you're asking this question to like promote discussion, but like, do you really believe in a world where like Facebook is announcing their metaverse? What was it they announced this week? Their metaverse thing, like where like
the
every
enterprise metaverse,
every high-powered tech company wants to put more high horsepowered technology closer to the human. This is like, we don't live in that world, even if we want, even if like there were forces moving us in that way. There's like the societal drift, the industry drift is too much in the direction of, like just more horsepower, more digitization. Like if anything, someone's going to do some study that shows that having a higher horsepower computer cuts your carbon emissions because you don't drive your car because you're at home gaming, seriously, like
that sounds like a study Lindsay would put
Lindsay,
out.
Can you do that?
Well,
study?
I mean, what's realistically going to happen is everything's going to be electrified, and then the power grids are going to be backed up by renewable energy, and everything will be fine, and we'll be able to consume as much as we can renewable energy sources, and it's going to be fine. So I'm not exactly sure why starting with limiting personal computers
our GPUs, Lindsay. They're trying to take them away from us. They're trying to stop us from overclocking. Okay?
They'll knock on your door.
Here's the question, though. Does it get tougher to be a pro gamer in California now? Like, seriously. Because there's now
going to be an overclocking Gestapo.
Like, as good of a PC. Like,
there's gonna be a night market for where you come. It's like, hey, I heard you do the thing.
No, because what's gonna happen is someone's just gonna open up a business that does that, and business
you guys have
are
water
be completely
cooling
different than personal, and it'll be fine.
Yes, I got that LN2. Oh,
Robert brings up a great point though. He says when crypto miners are such power hogs, this seems like a misdirected effort. True, right? Like much worse applications for this. And Tyler says staying consistent. I see. Not having high-powered GPUs is indeed quite dark. I mean, Tyler, in my world, it doesn't get darker than that. That's about as dark as it gets, I think. A 1650, like, kill me now. That's not gonna.
Yeah, that's pathetic. Let's be clear. That's like Paul's not even.
Anyways, let's move on, guys. Let's talk about. Okay, I got to get this in here. It's become a recurring theme. We've got another gaming chair of the week. Okay.
Yes.
Let's go.
I will say the folks at D-Box watched our live stream last week and commented on it and that they appreciated our review of their gaming chair. So hopefully they'll send us one and we'll do a proper review of the Cooler Master D-Box chair. But Cooler Master added again this week, believe it or not, with another chair. And then we're going to make it a segment. This is immerse yourself in Cooler Master's Orb X gaming pod.
Wow.
And so this is more than just a chair. It's a whole experience, I guess, where it's what they call a wraparound throne. And it's shaped like an orb. And the upper dome lowers. There's a single 49-inch monitor or three 27-inch monitors with surround sound, the whole bit, lumbar support, no pricing. I mean, we did say the price we were going to get $5,000 chairs. My guess is this is probably $3,000 or $4,000 at least.
But at this point, this isn't a chair. I mean, it's like a computer as well. You got a monitor. It's like a bed. You live in it. Like, this isn't even a chair.
I think only three or four. Really, that cheap?
I think like 5 starting probably.
Well, you can get the Scorpion ones off Alibaba for like $2,500.
Those are cool.
It does something similar. Right? Like it's pretty similar.
My fiance's in trouble.
I see some space in the room there, Jimmy.
Getting rid of the couch. We don't need that.
Why would you need a couch when you have a gaming orb?
Is now the
throne. It's a throne.
Is now the time to bring up the thing that needs to happen for the good of humanity?
Which is
Steel Battalions 2. Can we? Is now that like, are we ready as a society to go back in to that? Because like I think we're ready now. It's time. Like, what? It was this old Xbox game with a custom controller that was like just this it had like 45 buttons. Like there was an emergent. It was just awesome.
More than that. It was,
because you were like,
it was like $300. Like,
yeah, you were like piloting a mech. It was
no
great.
way.
You had
awesome.
It's so cool, and you had all the mech stuff. Like you were the mech master, and it's getting to the point where like there's only so much more you can do to the chair. Like I get it, and it's cool and it's awesome, but like it's almost getting to the point where if the market is this big for an expanded gaming experience, maybe we as consumers need to look back to things like Steel Battalions, because maybe I want a customized, maybe for my favorite games, I want more of a dedicated, customized, immersive control scheme. Because let's be honest, like using,
Yes, I was just
there
going
we
to say, Jimmy,
go.
you have to Google it.
Yeah,
Jesus
Steel
Christ.
Battalions.
But imagine
Yeah, look at this.
Jesus
Look
Christ,
at the
this is
eject
awesome.
switch. Look at the eject switch, Jimmy, on the far right. That's
Is it like a
yeah,
racing
oh,
game?
that's
What
so
are the
No,
what are those
like,
pads
Hey,
for?
drive tanks.
like a mech,
The-
like you were in like
the
Mech
pedals?
Warrior.
This is amazing. If they did this, like if From Software did Armored Core again and they came out with something like this, dude, no brainer. That in VR or something. Oh my god!
Yeah,
fun
it
would
would
that
be
be?
the
Thank you
best.
for saying Armored Core. Oh, Armored Core 4. So good.
the best. It's the best.
Yeah, and just for everyone's information, no, this is a video. Anyways, yeah, sorry guys, I had to do the chair bit because
No, it's interesting though. It's just like, are we?
because
I
if
think
Cooler Master's going to send us the other one, they might as well send us an orb too, right?
we
we'll
can
6
do
of them
it.
actually, because we each need to review.
We'll all start the show turned around and then like
You know.
To
Actually,
be fair though, it does look pretty cool. It looks
That's a
like
good idea.
level,
Awesome.
next level live stream where everyone's just doing it from their orb, right? Like, I mean, that would make for an interesting aesthetic, at the very least. All right, let's move on.
You're a legend.
Let's talk about, you guys mentioned Facebook and the metaverse. We have to talk about this story this week.
Yep.
Big story from CNET. Facebook's new metaverse group adds Instagram, gaming, and gaming execs. The reorganization within Facebook Reality Labs looks to add hundreds of new jobs and focus on the social glue between VR, AR, and the rest of Facebook. The article, I mean, to me, the first sentence or even the first half of the sentence is the big news. Facebook is betting big on metaverse, and a new organization within Facebook Reality Labs will focus on the hot territory. It'll aim to be the competitive tissue between the company's VR, AR, and telepresence products like Portal. Basically, Zuckerberg himself came out and said the metaverse is the future of Facebook, that at some point we are not going to be a social media company. I'm paraphrasing, but he has sort of declared this.
Well, first of all, to Facebook's credit, they actually give a definition of metaverse that doesn't sound wrong. So to their full, if you go back to the article, actually, right? Like,
yeah, it says
it's the feeling of presence. Actually,
it says
being
the
there.
metaverse is already here as a collection of digital worlds, each with its own physics to determine what's possible within them. The defining quality of the metaverse will be presence, the feeling of really being there with people. And Facebook Reality Labs has been focused on building products that deliver presence across digital spaces. Now, the problem with this definition is it's very broad, right? They're like doing a FaceTime call with someone could loosely sort of fall into metaverse territory with this definition. And maybe that's not wrong, right? Maybe that's part of it. But it is interesting that they have tried to define it differently.
Yeah, and I don't think their definition is wrong. Like they're basically saying worlds with physics where you're present. I mean, I would offer a different definition, but this is unlike a lot of things where they say like, oh, we're a metaverse and it's like a game with social features, you know? Like they're actually talking about, I think, what might be close to the real metaverse here, which is kind of important. Like not all metaverse discussions are equal. And I think this really goes at the Snow Crash metaverse, the real one that we look for, right? I mean, you know, like, let's be honest, it's Facebook saying this is super important. That's amazing. It's weird to me that Facebook believes this, and yet they're not trying to be bigger in games. Like if you truly, like, the company I would expect to be making this announcement is Amazon, based on our new, because at least they're doing physics built. Like, what does Facebook have in games other than Oculus, which is a platform? You know, it's weird to me for a non-gaming company to be saying the future of our company is essentially an evolution of what is best simulated by gaming today.
Well, arguably, if Oculus is what everyone thought it was going to be and what Facebook bought it for, you can make an argument that kind of is the first step to the metaverse. Like, right, like when I picture the holodeck future that I think Paul is excited for, it's like us sitting in our little orbs, and then you got an Oculus on your face, and we're running around hanging out at a bar together, but we're all just sitting in our orbs. Like, I think that is the future. So if Facebook is, building that virtual reality platform, that kind of is, and that's why I'm a little confused what this announcement is doing, because this is something, I think when they bought Oculus, Zuckerberg said VR is the platform of the future. Like, remember, he famously tried to buy Unity. And so like, none of this rhetoric, I think, is sort of new to Facebook. It's just like they kind of defined it now as the M word, and it's a buzzword that people love to use. But I'm not sure what like that actually means to say, oh, we're going to be a metaverse. Okay, well, what does that mean? What are you going to do?
Just from a feedback on big business, like groups that connect other groups never are very successful groups, right? Like in my experience, like, and maybe I'm wrong, but like those groups are the groups that get ignored because the other groups are building their businesses, driving their verticals. Like the group that's supposed to be helping people connect, that's the group that everyone takes meetings with, and they're like, oh, we got to talk with those people,
And we're kind of already seeing that, where Facebook is already trying to integrate on a lot of what Oculus offers, where you have to log in with your Facebook account, and people are already like, why would I want to do that? I don't want to link this part of my life with this other part of my life. There's no connection. Whereas Facebook does seem to want to be the connective tissue, and instead be like, you're already using this platform for social networking. We own all these other services. We're going to be the bread. I mean, like the butter that, the glue that connects you all.
That being said, the more interesting thing here is, a lot of these companies war, right? So Facebook says our future is metaverse. How long before Apple says our future is metaverse? Like, quite seriously, like, because that's where this stuff goes.
Yeah. I like Facebook's approach here, to be very honest, right? Like, I like that it's not games first either, right? Because the metaverse, I define gaming as the creation of virtual worlds, right? And so it ties in with metaverse, but I don't think you have to be Fortnite to become the metaverse, right? I don't think you have to be Roblox to become the metaverse. I think Facebook has many of the elements required, and I like a technology approach. I like this connective tissue approach because I think that's still what's missing, right? It's something at the scale that only a Facebook could potentially do, and with all of the elements that Facebook has and all of the people Facebook has, right? And it's not like they're not involving gaming, right? They brought in the Instagram's head of product. They brought in Vivek Sharma from Facebook Gaming. They brought in Jason Rubin from Oculus, right? So they're pulling from all of the different Facebook components that will make up this eventual metaverse, and I think it's smart. Now, are we going to see something tomorrow or overnight? Like, I don't think so. I think this is probably a 5-year project, maybe 10-year project for Facebook. But I would like to believe Zuckerberg has the vision and the patience and the resources to see that through, because I think at this point, from everything I've heard and seen, Facebook seems to have the best shot at truly building what we would call a metaverse in the proper sense, like a holodeck style metaverse.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Why do you say that? Because of
why
Oculus,
do you think
or
that? Yeah,
because they have tech, they have the social network, so they have the bodies, right? They have content, they have all the pieces that I think you need. They have all the cloud infrastructure, they have all the pieces you would need to make this work. At and a not scale that no one else has.
They also have a massive regulatory problem where, people are wary of Facebook. The government's wary of Facebook. All these tech companies have some element of that, but like,
Jeff,
there's a lot of backlash. If
you know how long I've been hearing about people having privacy issues with tech, literally 20 years. Okay, and nothing has changed. It hasn't slowed down the pace of tech innovation. At the end of the day, people have given up their rights to any kind of privacy, whether they admit it or not, right? If you use your iPhone, if you have an Alexa, if you use a credit card, your privacy is gone. And we will always have a vocal minority that's pushing for, certain things, but it's not going to stop Facebook from building what Facebook wants to build.
I agree with your general point on privacy, and I do agree with that. I just don't know if when you said Facebook is the best position because of those regulatory challenges, I'm not sure if I would agree with that. I would probably go with Amazon or Microsoft.
As someone who literally works in this and is well aware of Facebook's regulatory challenges, I don't think that that's a valid concern. Just to put your mind at ease, Jeff. I mean, I know there's section. I know there's.
Well, now I'm not worried. No, I defer to you. I mean, you are the expert here, so I defer to you.
I think it's interesting you think Facebook. I mean, they have a lot of great assets. I don't disagree; they're well positioned. But I would have said Amazon probably. Maybe Microsoft would be.
I agree, William. We're agreeing on a lot tonight. It's
Jeff, you and I. You know what
The social aspect isn't there for either of those companies, I believe. Like Microsoft doesn't have any sort of social infrastructure, and Amazon has Prime.
Have you heard of LinkedIn, Jimmy?
Yeah, like
the greatest addition to the metaverse that I could think of. Yeah,
it doesn't.
It's pretty large social professional network.
Yeah,
where you build your online presence and connect with people and network.
But in context of a metaverse, I don't think the metaverse for the business world and the metaverse for a casual and like the 99% of the world is going to be crossing over.
You didn't just bifurcate the metaverse. Now there
have two metaverses and it's a multiverse.
No, but like quite seriously, that probably will be what happens, right? At least in these interim stages before you have hyper realistic. Like you will probably have like one suite of metaverse products you log into for business and another for like, new world. Sorry, Paul, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I just think, but guys, either way, I mean, how cool is it that this is the world? Like, I just think it's so cool. If you had told like 11-year-old me reading Snow Crash that like the sci-fi in this book, and I know I keep going back to Snow Crash, which is the first book I read that really got the metaverse concept across to me. That this would be like a thing that the biggest companies in the world try to build and talk about and set divisions up for. I've been like, whoa, like that's like that. It's so cool that the world we live in is these concepts that felt so sci-fi and untouchable to me as a kid are like real things people think we can do now. You know what I mean?
I think we're going to see conviction from Facebook here. I suspect over the next 5 years, you're probably going to see on the order of billions of dollars of transactions where they buy technologies, content, things that fit into this, this team, essentially, this Facebook Reality Labs. Like, I would not be surprised for Facebook.
Like Mixer, right?
Like, what do you mean?
Didn't Facebook buy Mixer? I thought they did, right? Isn't that where the Mixer assets went?
I don't know if they paid anything for it.
I was trying to make a little. Anyway, leave it alone.
But
yes, the Mixer was the first. We will look back 20 years from now when we're living in our Facebook orbs. We'll say, that Mixer acquisition was the seminal moment of the 21st century.
I think Microsoft killed them and was like, hey, our friends at Facebook are doing a good job. Have fun.
We just didn't know. And once we turn into our LinkedIn metaverse, then we'll be like, Mixer, screw that.
This is the place.
This is the real metaverse.
Yeah. I mean, come on. The name is perfect for like Matrix style, like LinkedIn.
I'm linking up.
Yeah.
Tyler had a good question here. Could this be where NFTs start to show real value?
Tyler.
Anyone feel that this Facebook Reality Labs project ties into NFTs in a significant way?
It will, because Facebook has done stuff with NFTs, right? Like I think there's been news about that. I seem to remember, and I think it's too hot of a buzzword not to have some at least lip service paid to. Plus, I generally think NFTs are a reasonable method of tracking. Like, there's alternatives to tracking digital authentication, but it'd probably be pretty important to authenticate your metaverse, right? Like.
Any other thoughts on this, guys, before we move on?
Well, I think it's a good question, but one, I almost think maybe I'm being too simplistic, but it almost feels like it's an obvious answer. Like the answer would be yes, unless I'm missing like non-fungible. Wouldn't it be like that would just be any digital item that I can own and then sell to someone else? Like if we ever get to a real pure play metaverse, like what we're all picturing, I don't see how it could not have NFTs.
But
because otherwise, how are you going to trade goods?
At that point, there's also you have the discussion of what is intellectual property in the metaverse. If it's created in the space, who owns it? Is it you? Is it the company that you created
I think in
the
order,
thing on.
so it's fair point. I guess in my mind, in order for us to fully be a I have to own it. I have to own it and be able to sell it.
But
Otherwise, we're not in a
Jimmy-
metaverse. Then we're just, I don't know.
Jimmy is kind of pointing out like a super interesting point, which I hadn't really thought about, which is like, so, you know, we have all this issue. We have all these issues in esports, right? We're the Business of Esports, not the Metaverse podcast, you know, but like in esports, there's this problem with publishers owning the underlying sport, right? And so unlike baseball or football, there's sort of some caps on what you can do because at the end of the day, the publisher owns the reality, owns the competition, right? Like Jimmy raised a really interesting point. Like, what does IP look like in a world where the entire world itself is a simulation that's owned by, you know, like Facebook or Amazon or whoever? Like, how do you like what does creativity even mean and ownership look like in that world
then
structure?
if you're asking
really...
about NFTs in that world, don't you need some sort of distinguished treasurer for NFTs to become the standard?
And
the
can you
trademark?
take
Super
ideas
meta.
out?
That's
No,
what
but
I'm
it's
saying.
like,
Like, it's just
can
like it's a deep question.
maybe you own the rights in your simulation, but you have the right to take it out of your simulation and bring it to a competitive simulation. Like, I actually think it's really interesting. I think if you thought about this, it's a much deeper question because things that we think of to do with identity and control, like in a weird way, metaverses are going to have more in common with nation states than they are with anything else, right? They're effectively going to become, like to your point, you said like they're effectively going to become regulatory bodies. I mean, that's really interesting because one of the themes of, I think, our modern world is Facebook is more powerful than some governments, right? Like you consistently see like Facebook and governments fighting and Facebook winning, right? And now you're talking about Facebook building something which I think a natural consequence of it acts like a government. Like, I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, it's like we're heading into a really interesting future that might look a little bit more dystopian than some of us realize, you know?
As long as they don't take our GPUs, William.
They can't, Paul, not in this world. The GPU is all you need.
All you need. Guys, let's move on. I wanted to talk about a couple other things that, again, sort of recurring. And this one was, you know, we talked last week about the Steam Deck, if you guys remember, and we had talked about that Qualcomm mobile device. Another console being announced here, or at least coming to market, and this one called the Playdate. And I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it's a little yellow console. And the headline here is, it's an instant cult object for gaming. The Playdate console is a tiny handheld delight that offers retro appeal, eccentric gaming experiences, and quirky controls. And I would argue they're taking a little bit of a page out of the Nintendo playbook here by introducing a brand new control scheme with this device. And I don't know if you can tell from this picture, but you see this little silver thing on the side is actually a crank, like it turns. Hang on, let me see if I can go back here. I don't know why this picture opened up. So it's a little hand crank that turns, and it's a control. It's used to control character in the game, or like there's a fishing game. There's all kinds of uses for this little hand crank. For side scrollers, you use it to go backwards and forwards, etc. So they're innovating from a control scheme standpoint, and it's a tiny portable device. Does anyone think we're talking about this a year from now? Like, what does everyone make of the broader sort of trend of people trying to launch new consoles these days? The games here are unique to this platform, so you can't play them anywhere else right now, at least. But anyone excited about this, the Playdate?
I saw this on Instagram. Lindsay, you go for it.
I was just going to say I have a confession that I saw this, I don't know, maybe a month and a half or 2 months ago, and I didn't even bother sending it to you guys.
I thought it was a joke too. Yeah, I thought it was a joke.
I didn't think it was a joke. I thought, oh, this is for me and for children under the age of 12. And what I think maybe interesting thought that I just had was I would love to know from William where you kind of see trends in toys going, because I don't see this as a legitimate threat to like the gaming market necessarily. But when I was growing up, we had like Atari games and toys and all of this stuff, and they were really fun. And I see this more as like a, you know, maybe before kids get cell phones kind of toy. And I wonder if toys are moving more in this direction. This is a much more advanced toy than maybe a lot of what's available right now. So, William, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue is, I hear what you're saying, but the issue is like price, right? Because
this one's expensive. Just
yeah.
Oh, is it? I didn't
Yeah.
honestly look
The
at
price is $179.
And let me tell you,
and it's very small.
That's like
it's black and
3
white.
times as much as New World. Like, how is anyone going to afford this?
yeah, how can anyone do that? New
Wait,
World is
can they
only-
play New World?
No.
Ah, well then it's dead.
It's
Of course.
Who had the genie? Who greenlighted this?
The
is my
best
question.
thing about this console, I'll tell you right now, is the name and the color scheme. It has a
Yes, that's
friendly, marketable appeal. Guys, I mean, I would even the crank. We've had fishing controllers for games that you crank before.
That's true.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm
about
just sorry.
this.
I cannot give something a harder 0 in my
Yeah.
zeros book.
And this is why I didn't send
It's
it
a
to you
pet
guys,
rock.
because I was like, yes,
It's a
so
pet rock.
fun, and I knew
Who-
all of
Jimmy,
you would
hold
ruin
on.
it.
Jimmy B, you don't like this?
It's a gimmick. It's a little pet rock toy, right? Like you're gonna spend whatever on it. You're gonna play with it for like a day. And they're like, well, that was dumb, and then it's gonna sit in the bottom of your drawer forever.
So do you not appreciate people at least trying to do some kind of innovation on the console
I
front?
love innovation. I will
I-
always support innovation. But this isn't innovation. This is an overpriced Game Boy with a hand
Yes.
crank.
And
I will buy a
huge
Steam Deck. I will buy a Steam Deck. I'm not gonna buy this.
Right, that's usable, and it's a huge miss on the retro market. You don't have any of that Nintendo nostalgia. You have something that looks sort of reminiscent of a Game Boy Color, but with a crank on it. And if I have a child, I'm not giving him a crank-driven game device
what does
because
a
I'm gonna
Switch
give him a
cost again?
PlayStation,
Like-
and he's gonna be like, "Where's the crank, Dad? Where's the crank?" And I'm gonna be like, "I'm
I
sorry, none of the world works with a crank."
That's
I
your
just don't
concern?
understand how this is. What is a Switch? What is a
Like, what
used
is
Switch
this?
on eBay? Like $250?
Yeah, probably
like,
probably in that range.
I-
$200.
Cannot believe there is a market for this. When you're choosing between this and the Switch, like I'm
I
sorry,
genuinely
like,
don't think there is, and I think all these
This is-
articles that were written were just by their PR team. Was just like, we need articles out there because no one's buying this shit. Like,
It has good marketing. I said that the name is good, the colors are good. Somebody there
That's true.
knows how to market. But the underlying product, I mean, yeah, it's just like, no.
I really think this is the problem with all of you being hardcore gamers, though, because this immediately appealed to me. I'm a hyper casual
Are you gonna
mobile
get it?
gamer. Yes, I want one. Like
do you really? Okay, I want you to get one just for the sake of like the podcast, and let us know what it's like 3 months from now, and let us know.
Let us
No,
know when
I
you throw it
really am
away.
thinking about it.
Yeah,
too
no,
smart
genuinely,
for
like it's
that.
a good like
The problem
case
is,
study, right?
I mean, you're not gonna have any content. Like, what third-party publisher is gonna create a game for this?
I don't need third-party games.
Well,
What
you
they
need
said-
The
games.
10 games it comes with will be enough to last
She's
me
got
for a long
Shario
time.
and Luigi, bro. Come on.
What's interesting is the company bringing this to market, Panic, is a software company. They make games, right? And so this hardware is sort of out of their comfort zone more than anything.
That's
And-
even worse, though. Name one major hit that Panic has produced.
I don't play these kinds of games, so
But-
I'm the wrong person to ask.
I don't know. I just.
Like I don't
Like,
play
I-
black and white side scrollers, right? Like it's just not.
I mean,
my-
I love that people. The other thing is people misunderestimate nostalgia. I think as a force. Even WoW, when WoW Classic launched, kept the updated graphics, right? Like we don't want things to be as they were. We want things to be as. I think a great example of this is there's lots of games that have had sequels made for them recently. You know, reaching back to like Genesis era, SNES era. They've all been remastered. They've all been new, up-to-date graphics, up-to-date gameplay. They've taken the essence. Like, if this were a Game Boy stocked with the 10 greatest Game Boy games, then at $179, I actually could be interested because nostalgia plays a role here. But yeah, we got to move past this. We're giving this too much time.
We are not. Why do you
It's
guys hate
trash.
everything I like?
Lindsay, go buy it. Like, I
honestly,
I don't think you'll
what-
like it,
what-
Lindsay.
No, you extremely highly doubt
After, like, 2
my
months.
penchant
After,
for
like, 2
casual
months.
games. I still am one of those people that uses adult coloring books. Like you're really
No,
overestimating.
Adult coloring
I
books
feel
are
like you're a
great.
very
I'm right
small
there with you.
subset of people, Lindsay, though, that is a casual gamer, but sort of consumes like a hardcore gamer in terms of dollars. Like, you
I don't
know,
think
there's a
that's
market
necessarily
for
true,
casual
though.
games. It's called mobile games, right? Or even the Switch,
Sort
which
of.
William kind of
No, but I guess
mentioned.
the point is like I think like you'd probably go to your Switch or like I don't know.
I don't.
More
I
casual
really
games.
don't. We have,
but that's what I'm saying.
I rarely touch it.
So why would you play the Playdate? Is my question.
Because
you know what I mean?
it's like, so this is why I say it's like hard for hardcore gamers to understand, because there's an intense like imposter syndrome and fear factor with actually trying games. I am terrified of meeting people like you and being bad at games and getting
but you have Nintendo, right? That's why you have Nintendo, and that's why you have your Switch.
But even
that's
then,
Nintendo's whole business model. I feel
even I know, but even then, it can be too much. I'm not.
By the way, guys,
I think.
By the way,
you know
what game Panic made, and I think this plays to Lindsay's argument. They made Untitled Goose Game.
Wow,
it was great.
Wow,
that is actually
for 2 weeks.
See, this is what happens when we talk without any information. We just
I pull up Untitled Goose Game like once or twice a month, and I pop back in and I play my little gooses, and I'm happy and I'm calm and I let it go again. I'm not saying I'm gonna play this thing every single day of my life, but like it's gonna be great on a plane or like when I'm watching TV. Or
why do they need to have their own console for this? Like, well, I don't understand what the point of that is.
Because it's fun. And
but why can't they just put Untitled Goose Game on Switch or on Steam Deck or whatever?
You run into the same problem.
Lindsay, I love you so much, but here's my question, right? Like, you
by the way, they've already pre-sold at least 20,000 units, which is not insignificant.
Well, there's a bell curve of intelligence, right? And there's people on one end.
I mean,
this is gonna kill the Switch. Switch just got juice. Changing my opinion. Just like WoW is dead, Switch is dead. I would argue even Nintendo overall as a company is dead. Maybe even Japan as a nation.
Is exactly what I'm talking about, though, and why people are nervous to get into gaming is because of all of this.
No, but actually, I really want to hear Lindsay out, because I think you're right that like there's an audience for. Well, I think you're right. You are right. Like there's an audience for people who are gamers who don't want to come into gaming culture for all of the reasons you've described, because it's awful, right? Like it's awful in many ways. It's tricky for me because it's so funny that these guys made Untitled Goose Game, which is like the one game you could mention and made me go, oh, maybe, because there was so much quirky charm, and it was so clear to me that they were pursuing passion, which changes my perception of this, because like they probably put a lot of passion into this too, but I still can't take off my business hat that at $179, 20,000 I get it. There are you can move plenty of boutique things. There are plenty of great Kickstarter businesses that can do $5 to $6 million of recurring run rate revenue a year. Right. And they're awesome. But, positioning that as a console war, no. Positioning this as an idle, positioning, it's not a console. It's not. It's
no, it's not a console. It's a toy.
Yeah.
Guys, I want to move on. Yeah. I want to just say a couple quick words. For those of you who don't know, guys, the Business of Esports is supported by YouGov. They're a leading international research firm. They supply the best data on gamers, games, and esports fans around the world. If you've watched any of the live streams, we've done a bunch of like YouGov insight segments where we go into the data, and they're incredibly actionable. They're incredibly useful for anyone operating in the business of gaming or the business of esports, or at least even thinking about reaching gamers. You need to be talking to YouGov. And I would highly recommend checking out yougov.com/gaming-esports. I'll put it in the chat wherever you are watching this. Please go check it out. Show them some love. And again, if you're looking to reach gamers, if you're in a business where you're looking to reach gamers and talk to them intelligently and have a bunch of actionable data behind whatever you're doing, you must be speaking to the guys at YouGov. So yougov.com/gaming-esports. Definitely go check them out. Guys, I want to do one last fun story here. One very last fun story. And this one is totally silly, but we're going to do this instead of what are we playing this week? And it's a perfect segue from our last conversation around casual versus hardcore gamer. Let me show you. These are the opposite people. These are the people not buying Playdate. So this is, I think, is about as hardcore as gamers get. This is an article from metro.co.uk. And the headline here is, hardcore gamers carry on playing as room floods during typhoon. Okay, and let me just, you won't be able to get the audio, but I will show you the video where
That is not safe.
this room has flooded and they are continuing to play. I don't know if you guys can see this well.
That's a pretty epic LAN center. I bet they run on GT Circuit.
This is true. And I particularly love that no one is making any attempt to bail the water out or nothing. Just continuing to game. This is gamers and gaming, I think, at its most hardcore.
It's perfect. They don't even have to get up to go to the bathroom. I mean, this is like gaming
Right.
done right.
Ew.
What are they playing? Is that Counter-Strike?
It's Counter-Strike.
What's interesting is that
Nice.
none of the gaming chairs we've looked at in the last 3 weeks would have survived this moment. Unfortunately, the AI
true.
chair would have definitely not survived.
It looks
You
like
know
it's
what
meant-
would though? Me and my Playdate fleeing to higher
This is
ground.
true. There you go.
You can, it'll be like a propellant device at that point, right? The crank. It'll be nice, multi-purpose.
So just a fun little thing to end on. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on LAN centers in developing countries or hardcore gamers in developing countries.
I
will
respect
say
the dedication.
Respect.
I will also say there's a Bengali esports team that I've been following on Twitter that have been like kicking butt in Southeast Asia, and I'm like, how is this happening? And they've qualified for Rainbow Six like World Championships or something. So shout outs. Maybe they started in one of those places. Who knows? They're making it happen. Esports dreams, baby.
Esports dreams. Guys, on that note, thank you all of you. Thank you for everyone in the chat, everyone who was watching, lurking. We appreciate all of you. Jeff, Lindsay, William, Jimmy, all of you guys. Thank you guys so much. Stay tuned for the podcast tomorrow. It's a great episode, really fun with Clinton Sparks. I think you guys are going to love it. Also, make sure to follow us everywhere. If you don't, I'm going to be upset, but everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. It's all at Biz Esports. So make sure to follow us there. And as always, every Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, we do this live stream. So if you haven't already, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your colleagues, bring them. The more people here, the merrier. We really appreciate all of you coming, and we will see you guys next week.